Back-to-back nights of going live for our top returning Bulldog series. I'm Dane Young. That's Brent Rollins. We work for UGAsports.com. That's where the legendary dog vent is if you want to go over and check it out. And all the content, whether recruiting or season preview, it's all over there at UGAsports.com. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks for doing that. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. It is the most popular Georgia Bulldogs channel on YouTube. That was a goal of ours a couple of years ago, and we've made that happen thanks to all of you for supporting series like the one that we're doing. So, Brent, this is us looking at Georgia's top returning players based off of PFF grades. At the beginning of each show, I like to make sure we give the same disclaimer. I'm going to let you do that this time.
These are not our lists. This is not us ranking best or anything like that. It's basically just looking at snap count filters and then the grade, which PFF does grading, and I still do some of that. And every player gets graded. And then what we've seen with number five last night at Stetson Bennett, and then again tonight with Nolan Smith, who's now on our list at number 4, and the top 3 that are yet to come. Snap counts don't matter. Sample size doesn't matter with these guys. These are people who played a lot of snaps and did a lot of good things for Georgia this past season. And Nolan Smith is one of those who decided to come back for his senior year, and I think made a very good decision doing so.
Junior Baker's watching us over on our Facebook page, and we have Philip Hudson checking us out from YouTube. Thank you all for doing that. We don't do a lot of these live in this series. It's a long list, and some summer things have made that happen. So we like to go live when we can and support the people that make time for us, because we don't get to do this stuff if it's not for you all. All right, so let's jump into Nolan Smith and recap how he got to Georgia and then what he's done since then. When you talk about top recruits, he's right there at the top of everybody wanted this guy. He's originally from Southeast Georgia, but did play at IMG Academy at the end of his high school career. Outside linebacker, listed as 6'3", 228 pounds. And when I say everybody wanted him, I mean Georgia, Bama, Clemson,
Plus
Florida,
you got
LSU.
2, 1, 1. Those are some good numbers usually when it comes to recruiting.
Yeah, his high school tape was fantastic. He dominated. This was a big get for Georgia when they got him in the class of 2019. And Brent, you mentioned this is a guy that would have got drafted with all the plethora of Georgia players this last year, but he came back. Why do you think that is?
I think because he needs to take another step. Like, there's another step that he can take. As a run defender, he's elite, and we're going to go through that. But I think as a pass rusher, there's some things that he can do and still work on and still get better and really show that this year. You've seen him, those lovely year in advance mock drafts that come out. You've seen him in those first and second round range, and I think he can get there. I don't know that he's there yet because he's not 6'5". He's not 250 plus. He's not, those kind of things. And you see that now with how Georgia's recruited defensive ends in the last few years, including Mr. Darrell Smith, like kids who are longer and taller.
Look at you pandering. Just because his daddy's on here, look at you pandering.
I mean, it's real though, right? It's real that you look at Williams and Jones Jr. and Smith, like those guys, the length that they provide, and that's caused Nolan some issues. And I think we can show some things with that, but still, you have an elite run defender on the edge with Nolan Smith, and I think this senior year coming back for him, being the leader, all that goes into those type of aspects, being a college player, all that. Obviously, now with NIL existing, that exists as well for them. But I think it was a good decision for him because I think he can, with that next evolution as a pass rusher, vault himself into that early second, late first round category.
I point out on Georgia Dogs 1, since last night, this is not kidding, since last night when we did our Stetson feature, on the left here, they've added the navigation tool so you can easily go from player to player. I like that. Good job, Georgia Dogs.
Good job by them. Good. It's, as opposed to like a drop down. It used to be like a drop down, I think. Yeah.
Nolan Smith listed at 6'3", 235 pounds. So, like you say, for the ideal defensive end, especially when you begin to look at professional measurements, probably a bit undersized, but I don't think the effort and the speed are the issues with him.
Right.
It's just size. If you're getting, matched up against, if you get Evan Neal in front of you,
which, by the way, we're going to see him against Evan Neal later on. So we'll see. But there are certain things with him in his game where you can see the size come into play, but for the most part, it doesn't, because of the effort, because of the brain, because of just sheer strength. By the way, he's one of the strongest players out there on the defense.
One thing that we should point out with Nolan, and Darius Sr. saying this here, he's a great mentor, and that he's glad he came back, and he has a specific reason to think that with Darius Smith on the squad now under that tutelage. The thing, when you look at how Georgia positions Nolan Smith, and we've talked about this, that he's been a vocal leader for a while, that this guy's a competitor, and he's going to tell you that he's a competitor, and he's going to talk while he's competing. He's also a team leader in the sense that that's one of the guys that Georgia sent to SEC Media Days.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the guys that went back home this summer and did a backpack drive for kids in his hometown. Like he's thinking of, I need to be a leader for my communities. I need to be a leader for my team. I need to be visible. I need to show it. He thinks it's important, at least in his actions, to talk about what he's doing as much as he's doing it. And I think every good team kind of needs that too, because he's the swagger of this defense. Very much so.
And it doesn't just come defensively, as we'll see in one of the plays that we have coming up. It's not just there. It's every facet of the game.
Let's go ahead and do it. We've teased it enough. Let's get some video up here. And I was watching back our Stetson one, and I know sometimes that the video kind of stalls a little bit, but that's why we try to play it in full motion as well. So you get the full taste of it here. This play, I think a lot of people do remember. Florida backed up in its own territory, and Nolan Smith literally takes someone's lunch. I guess he didn't literally take it, but he took something.
And he basically took it, because this is still amazing to watch back and think that this was a great job by the officials not blowing the whistle. Because of the whistle, they blow it dead and they say forward progress stop kind of thing, that this doesn't happen. But just a phenomenal job by him of fighting. And I think that's the sort of the hallmark of his game, is constant fight, never give up, the relentlessness, every sort of adjective you want to throw in that realm, he exists with him. And this was one of his 2 big-time game-changing plays in this game.
Funny part about this to me was that when he rips out the football, like, he knows he went down. He's played football a long time. And he's like, I don't care. I'm running to the end zone. I know I'm on the ground.
I'm in the NFL today.
Yeah. Put that on my NFL highlight tape, because I'm getting in that end zone. I'm in an NFL stadium. Maybe they're going to go by those rules.
Yep. And by the way, great job, sort of unsung job on this play. Scene lifts Richardson to where that moment, as opposed to putting him on the ground or going low, everybody went high with him and keeps him up to where the ball could be ripped out like that. And that's, again, that's the strength part that we talk about. And we're getting ready to show.
He definitely has that strength. And that play is going to be on his NFL highlight reel, even after this year, regardless of what he does.
Yes. Now, this one don't get to necessarily see the snap off the snap because of the TV copy, but
yeah,
he's at the top side. And look what the offensive line, look in the position the offensive lineman is right now. That's never a good spot to be. And that's just because Nolan Smith has taken the sort of Reggie White, not necessarily full Reggie White bull rush to throw him down type deal, but used his hands through the offensive tackle out of the way, and then gets the tackle, the solo tackle on the running back. At PFF, we have a statistic that we call sort of stops that differentiates from tackles in a way. And what it means is basically you as an individual player make a solo tackle that results in a loss for the offense. And it's not necessarily a loss of yards. It's not a tackle for loss. It's if it's a 1 yard gain on 1st and 10, that's a loss technically for the offense, a non-successful play. So outside of the 3 linebackers, Tyndall, Dean, and Walker, he led the team in stops. Mm-hmm. So solo tackles that resulted in a loss for the offense. Like, that's a big deal. And that's a statistic of ours that I think that gets kind of underutilized from a impact perspective. But
well,
again,
in sitting beside Coach Donnan for a couple of years during games, I've really learned the critical importance of defensive players knowing which angle to attack from in regard to where your help is coming from. So getting to the outside when there's no one else there, knowing that you have an inside linebacker or a safety or something behind you. And when you watch the totality of games, Nolan Smith does a really, really good job of kind of playing that contained, but also attacking while he does it. You don't see him make
very
many
technically
catastrophic
sound
plays that allow someone to get behind him, is what I'm saying.
Yep. Yeah, very technically sound, and I think that's really the hallmark of Georgia's defense since Kirby Smart has arrived. They are the most technically sound defense in college football. Like and that's at every position, every level, running game, passing game, all of that. It's especially from a run fit perspective. Like I've watched some of Ohio State's tape in against Utah in the Rose Bowl. That was some of the worst run fits, just plain awful defense I've ever seen. And that's from a team that's a top 5 in the nation. So it's just something that doesn't happen with Georgia. And obviously Nolan's got it up here as well. And that helps him in this aspect.
Before we get to the beginning of this play against South Carolina, look at how cool this looks. Sanford Stadium, like end zone and everything, fans and
at night.
Yeah.
View.
Like this is kind of glowing right here. And I'm not trying to like continue the Twitter debate I've had of stopping neutral site games of all kinds to make sure that more happens in Sanford Stadium. But like, this is special. And it's actually, I'm a bit jealous. I've not been to a game in Sanford Stadium in like 4 years because I've been working during these games.
Right.
Either I've been with Coach Donnan or in some
Same
other
here.
capacities. Yeah, like that's part of what happens when you work in media. So like sometimes, especially at field level like this, I kind of get taken back. I'm like, wow, like I know it's special. I've experienced it a ton, but just look at that. So I hope people see that when they see the tape of what Sanford Stadium is, because it's a special, hollowed grounds that it's one of the best places to watch any kind of sporting event. Okay, I'm done gushing about that. I think fans will agree, especially the ones that watch our content. Back to Nolan Smith.
Yeah, and this is one where he wins on the edge. And, the get off is not necessarily there like explosively. And we talk about that with some of the other pass rushers because there's a little bit of play fake here. So he's got to play responsibility first. But once he recognizes, all right, there we go, play fakes there, recognize the bend. Like that's the one that I think next step with him is I think the bend skills are there where he dips and has that lower inside shoulder right there to get around the offensive tackle. It's the using of the hands before that move where he gets himself often in trouble, where he's more often than not, because of his length issues, he's staying in the middle and getting owned by the tackle in the frame versus winning on one side or the other and being able to use the bend skills and the athleticism that he has. But here, does it, strip sack, big time play.
Well, and you see the potential where, like, if he just really modifies a couple things and continues to get better, which he has, because look, I'll say this, I did not see Nolan Smith pop off of tape in his first couple of years at Georgia. Fine player, He did his job, but like, it's hard to stand on the defense for one, so it's not necessarily his fault. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is I didn't see someone that lived up to his recruiting potential, which may not be fair to him at all. The little things that he can kind of continue to refine, you just touched on some of them, but look, this snap is off here, and his hand is still in the ground here, but his teammates are engaging. Now, some of that's because that's easier to do from the interior. There's a lot of space in between here. Mm-hmm. But if he can begin to time those snaps even just a little bit better with his speed and his power, he's got potential to go get a ton of sacks this year if he can just kind of refine his timing a little bit. And I think you saw that more later in the season.
Yes, and he had his best 2 games of the season in the playoff and the national championship in terms of pass rush production. And what you mentioned is backed up by the PFF grading. Like his first year, 69.6 overall grade, second year, 68.2 overall grade, above average basically. Mm-hmm. Not quite, high quality starter level. Yeah, that's you're a very solid SEC level player. Yeah. But now this past season, you see it on the screen, 85 overall, the 90.6 run defense. We'll talk about here in a minute, but it's a definitive step this past season.
And we talked about his relentless effort. The way that he tackles here, Like, that is special to me, where your whole body's into it. Like, you're fine to slide around, throw everything you have to make this tackle.
Yep.
And like you said, he's good at stopping for sure, and he does miss tackles on occasion. But to kind of give it all of that and let his body slide around the quarterback as well, I love seeing that from a defensive end.
Yep. And we're you're gushing about the tackling ability, and then we get to see the next play. But the move is what you want to see. Oh, sorry. It's the next play after that. But this one, him as a run defender, and I mentioned this at the start, just elite. The grade that you see on the screen, the 90.6 run defense grade, that was 4th best in the Power 5 among front 7 players. It was, I think, Aiden Hutchinson, number 2 pick in the draft, was 90.8, something right around there. Just elite as a run defender.
Above Aiden Hutchinson, by the way. Hey,
yes.
Javon Walker.
And the 2 other first-round picks that are, one potential first-round pick next year, and then the other just first-round pick, numero uno right there, Mr. Walker.
Shout out Upson Lee.
And Jalen Carter, I think it is, I think he's the one on the interior that destroys this play. But Nolan on the edge makes Rosenthal for Kentucky look ridiculous right here.
And this is a good offensive line for Kentucky. Not many teams did to them what Georgia did. And it was Georgia's team effort.
Oh, yes. It was every player. And this one, it's just there's interior presence that makes the play as well. But he destroys the left tackle on the edge. This is just get out of my way, and I'm going to make the play. No chance to do anything.
I'm going to pause this still frame here because look at the angle and the sight that he has on everything into here compared to where the guy that was assigned to block him is.
Yeah, and what you can't see is kind of Carter underneath of the offensive lineman that's getting pushed back in the backfield, and then both of those two converging to make the play.
That's just a given with Jalen Carter. We get to gush over him, I believe, next week.
Yes.
But it's a given that he's doing that kind of thing.
And you think about, all right, you just lost 5 first-round picks on the defensive side of the ball and all the numbers and the draft picks. You return 2 guys on the defensive front who are absolute just leaders and, butt kickers in a way that are big-time players.
Do you find that Nolan is better when he's standing up rather than hand in the ground?
I think so.
I think most speed rushers are, right?
After watching his first 2 years here at Georgia, I had a thought in my head that he was going to be that for his long-term future, especially in the league, that he might be better served to lose 10 pounds and play inside linebacker. But he took that next step this past season to where, all right, okay, now you are showing that you are an edge guy, maybe a 3-4 outside backer kind of deal, playing with the Steelers like a Jarvis Jones did with them for a little bit. But getting there and taking that next step, this is one where we, my neighbor likes to call this the $1 million move, the $1 finish.
Let's make sure that we acknowledge what the scenario is here. 4th and 13.
Yes.
When you're the edge rusher here, it's always just go, 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 go. This is not going to be a run play. Everyone else is going to be dropping back doing their coverage thing. So you're just, falls to the wall. Here we go. And
I think it's a scenario, by the way, that Georgia edge rushers don't necessarily have oftentimes because they are so technically sound that it's just hey, pin my ears and let me go win wherever I want to win. Like that doesn't happen. Now, by the way, the guy that missed the block there, Darnell Wright for Tennessee, we're going to show the next play even too that struggles. He just 13 preseason All SEC, by the way, and had one of the lowest, I think third lowest grade of all the offensive linemen that were on any of the preseason teams. But
so let's talk about what Nolan Smith. Let's talk about what Nolan Smith does poorly here, because again, it's not an effort thing. Whole body's going to make the tackle, but it said he goes up high, right?
Finishes high. And by the way, Hooker he's not a small dude.
No, hard to tackle. I get it.
Yeah, he was very hard to tackle in that game in general. But, it's one where I think he went for the big time shot as opposed to, and I'm going to get the ball too. And Hooker did a good job of just being an athlete. But still, 4th and 13.
Get on Channing Kendall to keep playing through this.
Yes.
Again, that's the reason he got drafted to the Dolphins. But yeah, if you get a little lower here, you're at least going to stop it, and Tyndall's right there to help you out.
Yep, it's a sack. Missed opportunity for a sack.
I don't always love this angle here, but I don't know. I decided to at least give us a different look for what defensive linemen go through.
Well, and it's a great way to show how they use their hands. And like here, like I think if you go back a little bit, right when they engage each other, right, stop. So there, he's in a way, if Wright does not dip his head, Nolan's kind of stoned. But he dips his head, and then that allows, and I think Nolan is actually using his hands to kind of pull him, use that momentum against him, pull him down a little bit. And I think if he consistently uses his hands that way and is quicker with his hands, he's going, because he has to be, because he doesn't have the length that that some of the other guys do. So if he does those things and becomes, and we're going to talk about one other, I think, play down the road, have that second move after the initial one is stopped, but keep getting better there. He's strong. We've seen the strength. Just keep using the hands better and better, and I think he takes that next step as a pass rusher.
Yeah, he's fast and he's strong. He's just not the size of a Jadeveon Clowney, which not many people are. No. But he's not going to have the measurements of an Aiden Hutchinson, but he's gonna have the effort and the ability.
Yep. And the speed and quickness a little bit, I think, in those areas too. Same deal. Guy gets, the ball is out quick, so he doesn't really make an impact on the throw, but he wins. And this is something
was one of those that because when you pull some of these plays, you're looking at PFF data. You're not going back to look at video. Then I go back and I pull video. This was one of those at first. I was like, well, why in the world are we talking about this play? But then these happen with PFF where it's like, well, look at how he won his rep here.
Yeah, and this is how the grading works. It's an execution grade. And his individual job here, boom, play the run first because of the run fake, and then go win as a pass rusher. He 100% does that.
Because this is a smart play from Hendon Hooker to say at this point, okay, I see what's coming in front of me. I don't have much I can do about it. So let's just do what Tennessee does a lot, which is take a shot down the sideline and see what happens. Yeah.
Yep.
Tennessee likes to stretch the field, and they do it wide.
Let me flip the coin.
Didn't work out. Not a great throw, but that not great throw is heavily contributed to Nolan Smith being in his face.
And there, good shed and or hit, uses his face and hands a little bit there and gets rid of it. This is one I love. I think this is my favorite play of this.
Special teams. I knew you were going to say that.
Well, it's that, but it's also the culture of Georgia.
Yeah.
And I think, obviously Nick Saban started that culture. When you see guys like Minkah Fitzpatrick making plays on special teams all those years that he was there. But, don't be a Mr. 5-star, prima donna guy and come here thinking you're not going to play on special teams. If you're big and you can run, you're playing on special teams. Now, I think he thought Dan Action Jackson's got the touchdown here. But, again, this is your starting defensive end, one of your starting defensive ends making a play on special teams.
Didn't Dan Jackson have he blocked the one against Arkansas, right?
Yes.
So
yes,
that was two plays that he couldn't make in the end zone.
Yes,
but he made one that counted near the end zone in the title game.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. But still, I think
I love Dan Jackson and his story, so I hope people hear my humor in what I'm saying.
Yes, they would. They should. But I think it's just the culture of UGA. It's you're going to play on special teams, especially if you can run. And that's when we saw Trayvon Walker on special teams as a freshman.
I tell you what, and especially based on the list that we're currently doing, you look at some of the players on the field at special teams right here. We talked about Dan Jackson on our list. We talked about Nolan Smith in this one. Marcus shows me Jackson's really good.
Yep.
Chaz Chambliss, fantastic. I mean,
Daijun Edwards.
Yeah, Daijun Edwards
is that 30?
Yeah. I mean, and that's just the ones in the frame that I'm seeing right here. You're going to look back one day on some Georgia film on special teams, and you're like, holy cow, that's who they had to do in special teams.
And you think about any big game. If you say, all right, any big, for example, if you go back and look at the 2019 LSU game, and you look at the number of players that got a snap, either special teams or a regular snap in that game that are going to play in the league, it's in the 60s. Like, it's an asinine number. It's an insane number.
We talked about best couple of games being at the end of his season, and really some of the best of his career at Georgia, which I think is what propelled him higher up this list and what probably has promoted the excitement there is about Nolan Smith, because, again, this is a good offensive line for Michigan, and Georgia abused them.
Yes, very much abused them. And I think it was 6 total quarterback pressures he had in this game, including the sack, and career high, like next level career high for him as a pass rusher in this game. But I will say on this rep here, and this is kind of, he still gets the sack here.
You're going to pick a nit, aren't you? You're going to do some nitpicking.
Very little nitpicking. But it's, what's your next move? Like, he gets kind of lucky that his teammates have forced the QB here up into the pocket. If the QB stays, right there and delivers the football and the world's not collapsing around him, he's kind of stonewalled. All right, so there, boom, an initial hit and bend to the outside. What's the next move? I think he does a good job. The quarterback going this way kind of helps him to shove the offensive lineman away. But I want to see, all right, there, boom. Now, in Georgia's defense, a lot of times you can't do it, but because of contain.
Quay Walker was coming right here.
But give me a spin. Give me something else. Give me, give a rip under. Like, dip. What's the next move? What's the second? What do they do once you can't go right? I.e., your main route, your main move. What's your second move? Great job of this is just the QB forcing it.
Strong. He keeps where he's going to keep his feet and stay on the ground and be able to pivot. I mean, he's massively undersized in this matchup, and you see his strength here.
Yes, again, just throws him to the side.
You're totally right that Quay Walker and Tyndall here, they make this play, and Nolan helps clean it up, but that's what team defense is.
Yeah, 100%. And I think Georgia plays better team defense than anyone out there. And it's relentless to the football as well. And you saw that on multiple occasions in the game against Michigan. I think it was his second or third highest graded game of the season. But his total pressures, he had 28 total quarterback pressures. Of those, a quarter, 7 of them, were what we term as cleanup or pursuit pressure or an unblocked pressure. Like, so his overall pass rush win rate, which right here, this play is 100% a pass rush win. Like, his overall win rate through 3 years is right around 14%. That number, if you want to be an elite edge defender, elite big-time pass rusher, first round, middle first round or higher, that number needs to creep into the 20 or 22, 23% range. So that's the next step for him, is just consistently winning the one-on-one battles in the pass rush like he does here against a top 10 pick.
This is a bit of a different scenario. Georgia is going to win the national championship. But for the trivia-brained people out there, you can look at it this way. Everyone's going to remember the A.D. Mitchell touchdown. Everyone's going to remember the Brock Bowers touchdown. Everyone's surely going to remember the Kelee Ringo pick 6. All of that happening in later parts of the national championship. Who had the last tackle in the national championship? None other than Nolan Smith. I think some people remember that now. But down the line, there's going to be a trivia question for you. And here he is. But we were talking about that at Georgia, you don't necessarily get a ton of, pin your ears back and go. Well, there's no more of an opportunity when all your defensive backs are back here and Alabama's down by multiple possessions. Yeah,
and just trying to push the ball down the field in some way. And what does he do right here? He goes inside, sets him up outside and goes inside and wins like that. Gives them the
night-night.
Little night-night, because you just won the natty. But I hope to see more of that freedom, because they have athletes everywhere and they do such a great job of covering it on the second level with, some person of spy, or guy that's hanging back. I'd like to see them have more freedom to go in or out and just win however that is that they can win that rep.
I think Georgia's really going to benefit from having Nolan Smith back this year. And in part because of how much they lost. So I do think that his experience is going to really help Georgia. But I also think he's going to benefit, too, from coming back.
Yeah, he played more snaps a season ago than he did in the first 2 years combined. And I think he's going to play even more snaps, as long as he stays healthy, obviously. But he's going to play a lot because unless the freshman pass rush guys just come in and light the world on fire to give him a break, 2 out of 3 third, he's going to be on the field on 2/3 of the third downs at least, maybe 75%. And he's so good as a run defender, he needs to be on the field on first and second down. He's just not going to come off the field much.
For the trivia buffs out there, I made that point of he made the last tackle of the season for Georgia in the national championship year. So I'm going to look it up now. Which Georgia defender do you think made Georgia's first tackle of the season?
Against Clemson.
Georgia had the ball first. I'm looking at the play-by-play right now.
I mean, that feels like a Nakobe.
First defensive tackle, Latavius Brini.
Yeah, there you go.
It was a Kobe pace rush up the middle for 3 yards. And then Devontae Wyatt batted down a pass. I'm not going to keep reading this because a lot of people. Hey, Nolan Smith did have the first sack of the season. How about that? He sacked DJ Uiagalelei for 8 yards.
First and last.
So there you go. First and last sack of the national championship season for Georgia was Nolan Smith. And so that's something he can put on his resume for the rest of his life. And he probably won't have to pay for beverages or food in many places. Definitely not Savannah.
Yep, definitely not there. And I think it's just him coming back was I think great for him as much as it is great for Georgia, because you need that leadership. You need, Jordan Davis was that guy, and Nakobe was that guy last year as a leader. He can be that defensive leader, the vocal leader, because he's definitely that. I've been to multiple practices and things, and he just never doesn't talk. Like, he's always talking, constantly talking and competing. And he is an energy constant ball. He is the Energizer Bunny on defense for them, at least, especially verbally, as much as it is on his relentless play on the field. But you need that, and those are guys that Kirby Smart can look to take the SEC media days, and when things are going rough or practice is laxing a little bit, hey, let's go lead, pick us up, change the energy. And I think he's that guy for the defense this year.
I want to get to some of these comments since we are live, and I like to give people the love since they're giving us the love. Philip Hudson says he thinks Robert Beal is going to have a great season. I think Beal and Nolan Smith are a good pairing, and ends definitely do work off of each other that way. And frankly, if you're playing anywhere near Jalen Carter, you're better for it.
I mean, and that plus you think about Beal, like his fifth, sixth year. I mean, he's been here seemingly forever. Like that's an adult playing college football. So I agree. I think he's going to have a good season as well.
Justin Temple just says, thanks for the content, and God bless my family to y'all. Same to you, Justin.
Appreciate that.
Really nice. Steve Patterson checks in on Facebook, says, go Dogs and go UGA Sports. Is that the Steve Patterson? I think that's a big name in the history of UGAsports.com before my era there. Either way, thanks. If that is who I think you are, thanks for laying a good foundation for us to really benefit from. Yeah, Darius
we appreciate everybody checking out.
Darius Sr., thankful that Nolan came
back. Yep.
Totally understand it. Think he should be. Think Georgia should be. A lot of predictions out here. Here's one. Georgia's defense will be really good. Should be a top 5 defense at least. That's from Everlasting Chaos. I'd say that's fair, especially with the schedule that Georgia plays. I don't think this defense will be the caliber that it was last year. I mean, it's almost impossible to live up to that standard. But why couldn't it be really, really, really good?
I do think the secondary is in a much better position at the beginning of this season than at any point a season ago. Outside, I mean, because
the linebackers are not, obviously.
No, and that's an experience thing.
Those 3 guys, yeah.
But if you can cover, like there's too much data now. If you can cover and play high-level coverage football, you're going to make your pass rush better. And to me, they're going to be sound in the running game just because there's not a Kirby defense that is not sound in the running game.
JC with a good point. I know the starting 11 will be good, but I'm curious to see who we roll out when we sub. Georgia's going to play a lot of guys. That is for sure. I'm very curious to. That's a great point because I'm very curious to see what the first
3rd and 9 looks like. Who rolls out there in their sort of,
well, we said this when we talked about Chaz Chambliss. Will Chaz Chambliss be one of the guys going full-on pass rush? Because, man, he looked good when he was out there, but, he's behind Beal and Smith.
Like,
where
is
does he
that
rotate in there?
I think you're going to see a lot of Jalen Carter moved around, kind of preempting maybe a future episode here, but I think you're going to see him. Basically, they're going to say, like, okay, Jalen, go pick who you want to attack, and then everybody else line up based off that. And I think
defense to me,
because that way you can never as an offense know that, hey, he's going to be in one of these two gaps, and this is how we're going to do. They're going to have to me, they move Carter around all over the place, because then that hopefully creates confusion for offensive lines trying to, all right, who are we're going to slide to his side, that kind of thing.
Frederick Meredith says a 3-down turnover-inducing menace coming off of the edge in Georgia's defense. Nolan Smith should play himself to be a first-round pick in next year's draft. That's the ceiling. Now, he's got a lot of work to do to get there, I think. But that's his ceiling for sure.
I agree. I don't think he's a top 15 guy, but I think he's definitely can be a late first-round pick. A la Jermaine Johnson.
A little taller, a little longer, a little bigger. He'd be in that discussion just for body type alone.
Yes.
Aaron Gore says, who's the quarterback of the defense this year? Obviously, I think Nakobe Dean has had that role for quite a while. Inside linebackers tend to be that at Georgia, especially the ones that play a lot. So I wonder if one of those guys steps into that role. As a whole, I wouldn't be surprised if it's someone like Christopher Smith.
I think you're right.
Every single position on the back end of the defense.
Yep, and it's going to be on the field no matter the situation. I think that would have been my choice as well.
Him and Carter, probably. Those two. I know defensive, I know interior guys don't kind of become the quarterback of the defense to call things, but I guess in the sense that it's all going to revolve around him.
Yes, he will lead through domination.
Yeah. One way or the other, he's going to be the one. Philip Hudson was talking about Pop Dumas-Johnson. Check out the video that we did on him.
Mm-hmm. And I think when you look at those three guys, when you look at Dumas-Johnson, Munden, and then Sorey, Dumas-Johnson profiles as the Nakobe type in terms of body type, Nakobe, Monty Rice role. Munden sort of profiles more as the Quay Walker type, more in coverage, off, blitzing on the edge, that kind of thing. And then Sorey is the Tyndall to me. Like if you want to sort of put those three in a comparison mode.
And Phenom Unit says unleash Bill Norton. I think he's probably in that 2 and 3 deep at that position. Seen a little bit of him, not a lot of them. I know he had some injury stuff too.
But and with him, I think the biggest thing with him is you don't get he's not a minus. Like I've seen guys within the rotation oftentimes who come in and get hurt, almost hurt you in a way, but I don't think he's going to come in and be a game wrecker, but I also don't think he's going to be a minus. And defensively, and I think this is becoming more and more from a data like analysis perspective. When you look at defense, it's more defensively so in the NFL, but it's also that way in college. The less you minimize your weaknesses, the better you are overall.
Yeah.
You just can't have like, all right, if for example, like against Kentucky this past season, number 5, the inside linebacker, that guy literally cost them 21 points. He was that bad in that game. And, you can't have that. And when you have those minuses, guess what good offensive coordinators like Todd Monk are going to do? They're going to absolute attack. Like if you have one corner who can't cover or one safety who can't, play in towards a coverage, you're going to get spread out and you're going to put that guy in coverage. You have weaknesses, they will be exploited to the nth degree by good offensive coordinators. And that's what Georgia's defense, while they haven't had the top 5 pick, outside of now Trayvon Walker type players, they've had so many guys that are just really, really good that there is no weakness. And thus the team part of it, what's the sum is greater than the parts or something like that phrase. I forget the exact phrase of it.
You're rusty on your coaching.
Yes. but it's need to get back into it. I'm missing it. Very true.
One thing I want to point out before we wrap here. So we're 6 of our top 10 is now revealed. And right now it's currently 4 defensive players and 3 offensive players. And we know the top 3, and I can tell you that it's going to end up being 5 offensive players and 5 defensive players that comprise the top 10 of Georgia's best players according to PFF grades from last season.
I hadn't even thought of that.
Which indicates, that's a really balanced, talented team, especially being the defending national champions, losing a lot to the draft, and then still having that level of defense return to lead this team, and an offense that is continually to improve. So I think that should excite fans that Georgia's going to score points, and it's going to be hard to score against them.
I do think in general, when you talk about excite fans, I think it's like that and we've noticed at least in how these videos have been looked at, but it's starting to get there. Like that feeling of, all right, football is right. I mean, you look at training camp stuff. Julio Jones is now a Buccaneer. Like there's football being played on a field somewhere. Saw Matt Ryan do an interview today. Like practice starts in a week. It's time, and I think I think the fan base took a collective breath.
I took a jab at Falcons fans saying that because Julio would theoretically return to play in Atlanta in the final week of the season, which is now week 18, and that's in January. And so I was saying, of course he's going to go to Atlanta and have 200 yards and a touchdown. And someone said, "Wait, are you kidding? Have you watched any of Julio Jones? He'll be on the IR by week 7," which is probably fair.
He's played 19 games in 2 years and averaged 4 catches a game for like 50 yards.
You can very much argue that the Falcons did what they needed to do at the right time.
Oh, they got a second round. They got a second round pick out for him. So,
but
yes.
In a lot of other scenarios, they did not. We don't do a Falcons podcast. We do Georgia podcast, which is a good thing because don't know if my mental health could take that for what the Falcons throw on the field on a regular basis, and especially considering they might as well tank for somebody. I don't know who you tank for right now. Tank for Stroud?
Yes.
Suck for Stroud? Is that going to be it?
I mean, I don't know either. I really don't know. As much as I like Bryce is my size.
Yearn for Young? Yeah. I mean, it gets tough. Someone's going to emerge in this class. It's not going to be Will Levis. I think I'm on record for saying that. Philip Hudson, we'll let you have the last comment here. You're asking if Ryan Trouble Davis still on the roster. Big-time recruit also. Yeah, he's still on the roster. Very high in the number order. Yeah, just battled injuries. But I think he's doing better from all air. He's number 0. So if you go to Georgia Dogs, you see him pop up right there. He's a junior at this point, and it feels like you haven't seen anything of him because you haven't. Yeah, and so
Get healthy.
Potential special teams contributor, I think.
Yes.
Because talent's there.
I would agree.
All right, so we've done this on Nolan Smith. We will be into our top 3, releasing those once a week over the next 3 weeks. And when we're done with this series, the next week will be leading up to a football game for the Georgia Bulldogs against Oregon, that in Atlanta. We'll have plenty of coverage on UGAsports.com, both with the big recruiting week coming up, a great recruiting weekend in Athens, a lot of people in town, but then also as we lead up to game time, a week from today, Georgia players will have had their first day of fall camp. Now, that's not a hard practice in a lot of cases, but we'll begin to get some inklings and some tidbits and some tips and things we can pass on to people about what's going on with the Georgia Bulldogs ahead of their game against Oregon. That time,
the almighty depth chart. The almighty depth chart.
The depth chart that doesn't exist, but we all know exists. It's that season, and I'm looking forward to making fun of it a lot. I said I was going to get Philip Hudson the last
30 days away.
Thank you, Aaron Gore, for letting us know 30 days away. JC asked about Smile Munden. He hasn't played a whole lot. He's going to play a whole lot because there's a position of need at inside linebacker, and he's really, 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 really good. He'll be on this list next year. Didn't play a lot for us to have the sample size of that. That's my answer.
Yep.
Cool. Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out Brent on Twitter. Give him that handle.
Let's see. What is it?
Oh, gosh. Come on.
Doesn't it usually show on the screen? I'm lost. It's At Brent Rollins, PhD.
Usually, I bet, you know what? You're right. It's usually under your face, and I bet if I get rid of that, there you go.
There we go.
At
There
Brent
you go.
Rollins, PhD. You had to think about it because you almost probably went with your old handle. Mine's just my name, at Dayne Young, DayneYoung. Follow me if you want dad jokes. And today it was that Notre Dame's coach is very good looking. That was the topic of the day on my Twitter. That's a fact. And if Notre Dame is good, college football is a copycat business, which means that more teams will just hire good looking coaches and see if that works for them too. That's my
and do videos parodying what's the movie? The Hangover.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was actually a good one. Marcus Freeman, not an awful actor.
Really good. It's really good.
Yeah. Now, was football team any good? We'll all find out together. I'm just
Uniforms
saying,
look pretty cool too.
I'm saying if they are good and he gets Notre Dame to be like even more competitive, people are going to start hiring good-looking coaches and just see what happens with it.
They should hire me then, right?
All right, that's time to wrap the show. That's Brent Rollins. I'm Dayne Young. Thanks everybody for watching. If you subscribe, it really does mean a lot to us. We'll keep doing some fun stuff here on YouTube, talking about the Dogs or talking about stuff in college football. If you're interested or you know someone that wants to support what we're doing on an even cooler level and be a sponsor, we're still taking some sponsorships for our Around the League podcast that we do during the season, where we talk about the SEC as a whole. A lot of Georgia talk in there as well. But you'll have Brent Rollins with the data. You'll have me with the video journalism and dad jokes. And then we'll actually have someone that knows what they're talking about with Jim Donnan as he joins us to talk about what's happening around the league. Because I'm telling you, his tentacles stretch all across college football. And I bet you he knows someone at every single program in the conference and is texting them on a weekly basis because I've seen it happen. No lie, Brent. Before a game one time, it wasn't a Georgia game, before a game, an offensive coordinator that was going from one spot in the stadium to another called Coach Donnan on the way to his spot. I saw that happen.
Doesn't shock me.
I'm like, how? And of course, you know what they did? They talked ball because that's what happens.
Yep.
Fascinating to me.
I agree.
That's the level of, and he's just a good dude. I've become really good friends with Coach Donnan. He's both a mentor and a friend. We're family friends. Same with Brent. We're all good people. All right, I've babbled enough. We're going to wrap this. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time here from UGAsports.com.